Before we start this video, I want to ask you to do something for me. Press that like button. No, I'm kidding. Instead, what I want you to do is just take a moment and think of your favorite video game of all time. Preferably something that's single player for the sake of this video. It's okay, I'll wait. Alright, you got it? You got it? Now you're saying that this is your favorite video game of all time, but when was the last time you've played it? How often do you play it? This is a question that I ask myself sometimes. I think about my favorite video games like The Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, and Super Metroid. But honestly, I don't really go back to play those games very often. Sure, it's fun to revisit them and beat them, but you know, it's the same experience every time. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but sometimes you need something to spice it up. Something to revitalize it. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this video today. What's up everybody, my name is ingeniousclown, and I've come up with a few ways to help you revitalize some of your favorite games. To say I came up with them is a little bit of a misnomer, I guess, because this is stuff that people have been doing for a long time. Now, things that I'm going to go over in today's video don't necessarily apply to every game. In fact, there's probably only a small handful of games that some of these can actually apply to for reasons that will become clear once I actually explain them. But let's go ahead and go into probably the easiest thing to do with any of these games. Now, let's say your favorite game of all time is Super Metroid. You've played it dozens of times, and you've pretty much mastered all the boss fights, all the mechanics, all the power-up locations and whatnot. So how do you make this game more exciting for you? Well, one thing that you can do is impose restrictions on yourself to make the game more challenging and more interesting, and force you to approach problems from a different angle or a different direction. For Super Metroid specifically, what you might do is go through the water level Meridia without your gravity suit, which means that you're going to be stuck with water physics the whole time. Or maybe go through Norfair without your Varia suit, which will make you take damage every second that you're inside the heated areas. These are some very difficult challenges that you can do that will test the limits of your knowledge and the limits of your skill within that very game. And there's similar things like this you can do for every game. Maybe you can play a Zelda game without grabbing any hearts. Maybe you'll play your favorite first-person shooter with playing with just the pistol. You can get creative with these things and end up making the game a lot more exciting, not just for yourself, but for anybody that just happens to be watching you. As long as you have the skill and the knowledge to be able to pull these things off, that is. Now you're probably saying, but ingeniousclown, that won't make the game that much better for me. It's still just the same game. Well, luckily for a lot of games, there happens to be ways to get around that. And that is modding. Now, of course, not every game supports modding. The ones that do support it are pretty obvious. You have your Elder Scrolls games, your Fallout games, you have now The Binding of Isaac, and a handful of others. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of games with official modding support, but that doesn't stop people, not in the slightest. The port of the original Dark Souls game on PC was pretty much unplayable until some guy who was a modder decided that he was going to go into the game's files and fix things himself to make the game actually playable. And people go pretty crazy with these mods. In fact, even before The Binding of Isaac had official mod support, they would go into the game's files and modify them directly to create new things for the game that they loved. People would download these mods, play these mods, and suddenly the game is much different from what they know and what they've been playing hundreds and hundreds of hours of. And even going back to the Super Nintendo and Nintendo Classics, there's versions of games known as ROM hacks that can just drastically alter the state of any game. There's many ROM hacks that go as far as basically using the base game of like Super Metroid or A Link to the Past as a game engine to create their own game within. Granted, you're still playing The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past or Super Metroid, but the whole map may be different. Some mechanics may be slightly altered to change the flow of gameplay, or maybe bosses have been changed to be more challenging. But at the same time, you're still playing the game that you love, which is actually really cool. Something that I did very recently, and you could go check it out on my gameplay channel if you're interested, is that I started playing through The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past again. But I didn't just play A Link to the Past as it is. I found a ROM hack that has a randomizer that basically takes all of the items in the game, all of the treasure chests, and all of the items that are just in the world that you can pick up, and it randomizes them completely. So that means when you go to the first dungeon and you're trying to find your bow so you can go through and fight the boss at the end of the dungeon, you might not have a bow in that treasure chest. In fact, that treasure chest may not hold anything useful at all. What it might have is probably $300 that you now have to go spend somewhere. It's not going to help you beat the dungeon, but that's okay. The randomizer forces you to think about what you know about the game, think about where treasure chests are, and tackle the game in a completely different direction than you would otherwise. You might end up in the Dark World before you even have the Master Sword. You might have to tackle Dungeon 7 before you can tackle Dungeon 2. Those are just some examples, and it completely revitalized the game for me. It made the game so much more interesting and so much more exciting than it would have been had I just played through it in the normal way that I've played through it dozens of times already. It's easily the most fun that I've had playing A Link to the Past in a really, really long time. And I kinda hope to find more versions of ROM hacks and stuff to play, just because it'll revitalize these games for me. So I've already mentioned self-imposed restrictions that increase the challenge, and I've already mentioned mods and ROM hacks that change the way a game is played, while still being the same game. Now the last thing that I can think of, and this is a little bit more hardcore than the others if you choose to participate rather than just watch, and that's speedrunning. Speedrunning is the act of trying to beat a game as quickly as possible. Beating a game is defined as getting to the credits. There is a huge community around speedrunning. And within this huge community, there are many smaller communities around specific games and specific franchises. So you might have the 3D Mario games community, you might have the Metroid community, you might have just the Super Metroid community. And I can almost guarantee that if you have a favorite game, there's going to be a speedrunning community around it. All you really need to do is go into YouTube and type in your favorite game, speedrun, and you'll probably find some impressive video of a player just completely dominating this game in a way that you didn't even know was possible. Now I will warn you that many of these speedruns involve using glitches to exploit bugs in the code to help you get further faster. Now just because they're glitches that help you get further faster doesn't mean that they're easy. Many of these glitches and tricks require frame perfection, and what that means is that there's a very small window of time and a very specific setup to get these tricks right. Sometimes not getting this trick can easily end a run, and you won't have any chance at a world record if you don't hit it the first time. One of my favorite runs to watch, especially as it's been getting better and better over the past few years, is The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. I started watching this speedrun a lot when it was at about 19 minutes, the any percent category by the way. And within this category, it's gotten optimized so much that the world record is now 17 something minutes. It's absolutely insane to watch. And I'll put a link to the current world record as of this video in the description below. It's definitely worth a watch. It's very interesting to see how this game can be broken and beaten in less than half an hour. In 17 minutes, a game that takes most people like 10 plus hours to finish. And of course they utilize some very unique glitches to this game, but that doesn't make it any less interesting to watch. And those of you who are interested in seeing or speedrunning games without glitches, many games actually have a category called glitchless that will do just that for you. Maybe they're not all glitchless or completely glitchless, but they take sort of that thing that I mentioned at the beginning, self-imposed restrictions, and say, hey, you can't use this glitch or this glitch or this glitch because it'll make the run less interesting and less fun. So they make these categories around these specific restrictions that people compete over for world records. It's really, really cool. There's a whole world involved in it. In fact, this community has gotten together and created a week-long marathon called Games Done Quick. It happens twice a year, one in the winter, one in the summer. And it just so happens that at the time of this video, Games Done Quick for winter 2017 is starting tomorrow, on January 8th, 2017. This marathon is a week long, and some of your favorite games are going to be played, they're going to be broken, and these are some of the best players in the world of these games. So I highly recommend going to the website, gamesdonequick.com, going to the schedule, and looking for some of your favorite games, and then tuning in. This upcoming event is going to be earning money for the Prevent Cancer Foundation, and over the years they've earned millions of dollars for this charity. It's really cool to see. It's great to hear some of these heartwarming donations, and it's fun to watch these speedrunners break some of your favorite games. There's going to be plenty of links in the description below, so go check them out. It's great to watch, and it's definitely a productivity killer, so I'm sorry if I don't end up with a new video over this next week. You'll know why. This is an event that I donate at least some money to every time it comes up. I love what they do, I love the communities, and I just love watching awesome gameplay of awesome games. Anyway, sorry for turning this into sort of a pseudo-commercial for Games Done Quick. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I just want to get more people watching this event and help make it bigger and better. I'd love to just see it continue to grow. And I'd love to see more events like this pop up in the future. But anyway, that's gonna do it for this video. This was a bit of a long one as far as my rambly type videos go, so if you got all the way this far, thanks for watching. And if you did get this far, please go into the comments below and let me know what your favorite way to revitalize one of your favorite games is. Maybe it's the randomizer that I mentioned, maybe it's mods for The Binding of Isaac. I don't know. I'm curious to hear how you guys make some of your favorite games fresh. Or perhaps you haven't before and this video inspires you to do something new with some of your favorite games. I don't know, let me know. I'm interested in hearing about it. And as always guys, check the description below for various links that I mentioned in this video, and please do remember to hit that like button on your way out, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and follow me on Twitter at ingeniousclown for more awesome gaming content here in the future, and I will see you next time.